I poured everything into that campaign, late nights, skipped weekends, and a strategy I believed in. But when it all went south, my boss didn't hesitate to throw me under the bus. He blamed me in front of the entire company and fired me on the spot. He thought that was the end of it. What he didn't know, I had every email, and I wasn't going down alone. My name's Jack Monroe, and for 5 years, I lived and breathed public relations, crisis management, product launches, social media storms. I handled them all. I wasn't just good at my job. I was the guy they called when everything was on fire. At Hawthorne and Lowe, one of the biggest marketing agencies in Chicago, I had built a reputation as the fixer. Quiet, smart, and always calm under pressure. I wasn't flashy. I didn't play politics. I just did the work. And I loved it. The strategy, the psychology, the timing. It was like chess only, with real-world consequences. But in a company like Hawthorne and Lowe, talent alone wasn't enough. You had to survive the egos. Egos, too. And no one had a bigger ego than Eric Caldwell, the head of marketing. Caldwell was charming on the surface, perfect teeth, expensive suits, and a silver tongue that could sell water to a fish. But beneath the polish, he was a shark. He didn't build, he manipulated. He didn't lead, he used people, and for a long time, I stayed out of his way. He ran the marketing department like a kingdom. You were either loyal or disposable, and Caldwell didn't like me. Maybe because I didn't suck up to him like the others. Maybe because he knew I was better at my job than he was. Our paths crossed more than I wanted them to. Whenever his team launched something sloppy or half-baked, I was the one asked to clean up the PR mess. I'd write statements, manage press calls, redirect the narrative online. I did it because it was my job. But every time I made him look good, he'd take the credit. And every time something went wrong, his eyes would linger on me a little too long. The campaign that changed everything started innocently enough. It was a product launch for one of our biggest clients, Blue Ember Tech. They were releasing a wearable fitness tracker aimed at Gen Z. It was sleek, affordable, and expected to dominate the market. Caldwell was in charge of the marketing push, and I was brought in for PR support. At first, things seemed under control. We held brainstorming sessions. I drafted press releases, lined up interviews, flagged potential risks. But I noticed Caldwell making strange decisions, rushing timelines, skipping focus groups, greenlighting ads that felt tone deaf. When I voiced concerns, he waved me off, Jack. "Don't be so cautious," he'd say with a smirk. "We're in the business of bold moves." What he meant was, "Don't question me, just fall in line." I started documenting things, not because I suspected anything, but because I had a gut feeling. I kept copies of emails saved, call logs, even backed up presentation decks, just in case. Then the launch happened, and it was a disaster. One of the ads went viral for all the wrong reasons. It used outdated stereotypes, and Twitter exploded within hours. Influencers called for a boycott. Blue Ember's CEO released a statement distancing himself from the campaign reporters, started digging. Suddenly, everyone was looking for someone to blame, and Caldwell found his perfect scapegoat. The morning after the backlash, I was called into an emergency meeting. The HR rep was already there. So was Caldwell. So was my department head. Silent, eyes on the table. Caldwell didn't even look uncomfortable. He looked rehearsed. "We've reviewed the situation," he said smoothly, "and unfortunately, the peer direction you advised created significant reputational damage. We'll be terminating your employment effective immediately." I was speechless. I had flagged that ad. I had sent the exact email. Warning, it could backfire. and I had the receipts. But in that moment, none of it mattered. The room was cold, clinical. I was just a name on a spreadsheet to be erased. Security escorted me out like I was a criminal. I walked home in the rain, my box of desk stuff getting soaked. It felt like a bad dream. No goodbye party, no handshake, just gone. What Caldwell didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I wasn't as disposable as they thought. The days after my firing felt unreal. I kept checking my phone, half expecting an apology or some kind of explanation. But there was nothing. No call from HR. No email from Caldwell. Not even a single coworker reaching out. It was like I'd been erased from the company's history. For the first few days, I spiraled. I stayed in sweatpants, binge-watched courtroom dramas, and replayed the moment Caldwell threw me under the bus again and again. How he looked so calm, so polished while tearing my career apart. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the smugness. But then I remembered something. The email, subject concerns about Blue Ember. Add draft from Jack Monroe to Eric Caldwell. Timestamp 2 weeks before the launch. In it, I had laid out clearly and professionally why that ad would be problematic. I warned about cultural backlash. I even suggested 3 alternative campaign angles. And Caldwell replied with just 2 words. Noted. Proceed. That email wasn't just a receipt. It was a weapon. And it wasn't the only one. I started going through my digital backup. Google Drive folders, old Slack threads, archived decks. What I found made my blood boil. There were at least 6 different instances where I had raised red flags about targeting, tone, even legal issues. Each time Caldwell brushed me off or told me to focus on my lane. Worse, I found emails he'd sent to Blue Ember's team twisting the narrative. He'd implied the PR strategy was fully endorsed by Jack Monroe. He used my name to shield his decisions. I was the shield, the patsy. At that point, my anger turned into something else. Focus. This wasn't just about clearing my name. This was personal. I contacted a friend, Rachel, who used to work in investigative journalism before moving into freelance consulting. We met for coffee. I want to leak something, I told her. But it has to be clean, legal. No blowback. She raised an eyebrow. What kind of leak? Emails. Internal correspondence, showing how a senior exec at Hawthorne and Lowe manipulated a campaign and pinned the blame on an employee he fired. She didn't even blink. Send me everything. I'll scrub the metadata, redact the irrelevant stuff, and make sure it's airtight. Over the next 3 days, I sent her a folder full of documents. She organized it into a neat, damning timeline. Meanwhile, news about the Blue Ember fiasco hadn't died down. In fact, it had gotten worse. A few YouTubers and marketing blogs started digging into Hawthorne and Lowe's track record. They noticed a pattern of culturally insensitive campaigns, all under Caldwell's leadership. The fire was already smoldering. I was just about to throw gasoline. Rachel helped me send an anonymous tip to a journalist at the Chicago Ledger, a respected online publication. We titled the email, Whistleblower Internal Emails Reveal PR Scapegoat in Blue Ember Scandal. Within 48 hours, the story broke. Front page headline, exclusive, leaked emails, suggest, fired PR. Exec, was innocent in Blue Ember debacle. The article didn't mention me by name, but it quoted lines from my emails. It laid out the timeline. It showed how Caldwell had ignored warnings, used me as cover, and shifted blame when things went south. The public ate it up. So did Blue Ember's CEO. On Twitter, he posted, "We are deeply concerned by the revelations in today's report. We are reviewing our relationship with Hawthorne and Lowe." And just like that, the cracks became an avalanche. More clients started questioning their contracts. Internally, panic spread. One of my old coworkers, Lisa from accounting, texted me out of nowhere. "Holy shh, Kia, did you leak that article? People here are losing their minds." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. By the end of the week, another article dropped, this time from Adweekly, quoting an anonymous source inside the agency. "There's a culture of deflection at Hawthorne, and Lowe people are scared to speak up. Caldwell's been untouchable for years." The article featured blurred screenshots of Slack convos I'd saved. It all painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. The best part, I never said a word publicly. I didn't need to. The truth spoke for itself. Meanwhile, recruiters started reaching out to me. They'd read between the lines. One email caught my eye. "Hi, Jack. I'm a senior recruiter at Stratfield Group. We admire your integrity and crisis instincts. Are you open to a confidential conversation?" Stratfield was Hawthorne and Lowe's biggest competitor. Things were shifting fast. But Caldwell, he had no idea what was coming next. The Monday after the leak, Hawthorne and Lowe issued a rushed public statement. "We take all allegations seriously and are conducting an internal review to ensure accountability at all levels." Translation: panic mode, but it was too late for damage control. By Tuesday, Blue Ember had officially terminated their contract. They posted a public apology and distanced themselves from the campaign entirely. Caldwell, of course, tried to keep his cool. At first, he acted like nothing was wrong. He called a department-wide meeting, oozing charisma, as he delivered one of his classic "We'll weather this storm together" speeches. But the cracks were showing. He was sweating. Literally. His perfect hair wasn't quite so perfect anymore. People were whispering behind his back, and someone leaked audio from that meeting to the press. His line, "We must control the narrative before it controls us," didn't sit well when quoted out of context. Then came the dominoes. Two of our mid-tier clients paused upcoming campaigns. One influencer we'd contracted with called us out in a viral TikTok. And worst of all, an anonymous Twitter thread went viral, supposedly written by a former Hawthorne employee, detailing the toxic work culture, name-dropping Caldwell, and referencing specific abusive incidents. I didn't write it, but I definitely inspired it. Meanwhile, I had coffee with Stratfield Group's head of communications in a quiet corner of a downtown cafe. She looked me in the eye and said, "Let's cut to the chase. We know you didn't screw up that launch. In fact, what you pulled off getting the truth out without burning yourself publicly was impressive." I nodded. "I just wanted the record corrected." She smiled. "We want you to do more than correct records. We want you to lead a team." The offer was on the table. Double my previous salary, full creative control, and best of all, an office right across from Hawthorne's building. But I didn't accept. Not yet, because I wasn't finished. The public was finally seeing Caldwell for who he really was. But inside the company, he was still holding on. He started scapegoating other people. Junior designers, copywriters, even an intern. The firings began quietly. One by one, he cut people loose trying to show the board he was cleaning house. But employees weren't staying quiet anymore. They started leaking screenshots, anonymous emails, even recordings from internal meetings. It was chaos, and I hadn't even played my final card. See, the most damning piece of evidence I had wasn't the emails, it was a voice memo. A drunken voicemail. Caldwell had accidentally left me one night months ago after a corporate party. Jack, you're too clean, man. Too damn clean. That's why you'll never run things. People don't rise in this business because they're right. They rise because they know how to bury bodies. You don't even know where the shovel is. I had saved it. Never thought I'd need it. But now, it was my nuke. Rachel helped me clean the audio, enhance the quality, and send it anonymously to a few key journalists already covering the scandal. This time, it hit everywhere. New audio. Leaks reveal toxic power games inside Hawthorne and Lowe. Caldwell's words were in headlines. TV anchors repeated the quote with raised eyebrows. The public, already angry, now had a villain with a voice. By Friday, the board had no choice. Caldwell was suspended pending investigation. He was escorted out of the building. Not fired, not yet. But the photos of him walking to the parking lot, looking disheveled and pissed, were all over LinkedIn. I didn't smile. Okay. Maybe just a little. Then came the best moment of the week. Stratfield invited me back for an official final interview, not just for PR director, but for vice president of strategy. It was more than a promotion. It was a message. They wanted me to help them reshape the entire way they approached reputation, integrity, and messaging. And they wanted me to do it on my terms. The night before I signed the offer, I walked past Hawthorne's building. Lights were still on. The receptionist who used to ignore me waved. I waved back. And that's when I got a call. Private number. I answered. Jack. It was Caldwell. His voice was raw, tired, but still trying to sound in control. You think you won, don't you? I didn't say anything. I built that place. You were just a tool, a technician. You don't understand what it means to lead. Still silent. Then he said something I'll never forget. This business doesn't reward honesty. It rewards winners, and you're not one. I hung up. And the next morning, I signed the Stratfield contract with a champagne toast. A week after I signed the Stratfield contract, Hawthorne and Lowe officially announced Caldwell's termination. No severance. No public thank you. Just one short sentence. Mr. Caldwell is no longer with the company, effective immediately. The internet did the rest. Comment sections exploded. Former interns, ex-employees, even clients began sharing horror stories. Screenshots of Caldwell's ego manipulation and bullying flooded Reddit threads and Twitter feeds. Suddenly, no one was defending him. It was like the whole industry had been waiting for someone to throw the first stone. All I'd done was drop a boulder. But I wasn't done. You see, while all eyes were on Caldwell, I'd been quietly digging through some old client files from my time at Hawthorne. And that's when I found something strange, a pattern. There were at least 3 high-budget campaigns over the last 2 years where the numbers never quite matched. Ad spends reported to clients didn't align with what was actually paid out to media partners. Some of the invoices had been adjusted. I didn't know for sure who was behind it. But Caldwell's name was on every single approval. I sent the files anonymously to a friend in forensic accounting. 3 days later, he called me back. Jack, this is fraud, like real fraud. Tax-level federal investigation. Kind of fraud. I paused. Can it be traced? He laughed. Oh, it's already halfway there. I guarantee you. Someone inside is panicking right now. Turned out, someone was another anonymous source leaked financial irregularities to the press now. It wasn't just a PR scandal. It was a federal one. By month's end, Hawthorne and Lowe had lost 4 major clients, half their staff, and were under IRS scrutiny. Meanwhile, I walked into my new office at Stratfield with floor-to-ceiling windows and a door with my name on it. Jack Delaney, VP of Strategy. The team welcomed me like a hero, but I stayed humble. Well, mostly I focused on building. We launched 2 major rebrand projects in my first quarter, both ethical, both transparent, both wildly successful. One client even said, "Working with your team is like unlearning everything we hated about PR." And guess who applied for a junior account manager role 3 months later? Caldwell's old assistant. She didn't recognize my name at first. During the interview, I asked, "What made you leave Hawthorne?" She looked down. "It got toxic, especially under Caldwell. He used people," I nodded. "You're safe here. I hired her," she cried. But the real final act came one evening. 6 months later, I was invited to speak at a conference on reputation, resilience, and reinvention. I almost declined, but something told me I should go. I stood on stage looking out at an audience full of brand managers, agency heads, and marketing executives. Some of them had known me back when I was just the PR guy who got canned. Now they saw a leader. I opened with one line. Sometimes your reputation breaks, so something better can be built. And in the back row, I saw him. Caldwell, wearing a wrinkled shirt, no badge, just watching. I didn't flinch, didn't smirk, didn't even blink, because I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already won. I walked off stage to a standing ovation. A few weeks after the conference, I received a letter in the mail, no return address, no signature. Just one sentence typed on a piece of plain white paper. "You really were holding the shovel all along." I smiled. I didn't need confirmation. I didn't need to gloat. I had a team I respected, a career I rebuilt from ashes, and a reputation not just restored, but redefined. Revenge hadn't been about destroying him. It had been about reclaiming myself. Caldwell faded from the industry, from the headlines, from relevance. No one talked about him anymore. He became exactly what he feared most: forgettable. Meanwhile, I built something better. Not just campaigns, but a culture. A place where people felt heard, where credit was shared, where the truth mattered more than spin. Every now and then, I walk past Hawthorne and Lowe's old building. It's empty now, for lease signs in the windows. A ghost of a brand that once thought it was untouchable. But I don't feel triumphant when I see it. I feel peace, because in the end, I didn't burn bridges. I built a better one and walked across it.